Hello, my name's Aiden, and if you've never seen a video from me, that's because I've never put a video out. I have decided to start a little bit of a YouTube thing just because I like talking about books and movies and stuff like that. More specifically, books, I think, is what I'm going to focus this little channel on. But yeah, one of my favorite videos to watch throughout the year through the booktube space is the mid-year book freakout tag. I don't have the original tag linked down below, but I do have the questions that I'll put in the comments, so if you want to do it for whatever reason, if you see this video and you want to do it, the lists are there. I've kind of compiled it. There's multiple questions over different lists, so I kind of just compiled ones that I wanted to talk about. So, let's see. We'll start with the first question. The first question is, what's the best book you've read this year so far? Let me grab it. Easily goes to this one. This one is the only 5-star I've given this year. Was a recommendation from maybe Jack Edwards. For whatever reason, picked it up on a whim, decided to read it really quick. That's The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This book is beyond tragic and lyrically perfection. One of the best books I've ever read. It is one of the most engaging reads I've seen. Usually I listen to audiobooks when I'm reading books, but this one, for whatever reason, I mean, I didn't need the audiobook. I was so enraptured in this. It's a really quick read. It does not take very long. You can probably knock this out in a day. But yeah, The Bluest Eye, this is Toni Morrison's debut novel. Maybe the best debut novel I've ever read. I have to think about other novels, but this might be my favorite debut. I think it's just so rich and heartbreaking and just phenomenal in so many ways. It is really just this beautiful piece of literature. If you don't know what it's about, I'll just read a little bit of the back. Pecola Breedlove, a young black girl, prays every day for beauty. Mocked by other children for her the dark skin and curly hair and brown eyes that set her apart, she yearns for the blonde hair and blue eyes that she believes will allow her to finally fit in. So it's got a lot of commentary. Toni Morrison uses perspective in this book in a really cool, interesting way that you don't think from the back of this book. You think it's gonna be you think it's gonna be one thing. It's not. It's completely different, and it's this ensemble piece that's, you know, decades spanning, and it's just genius. It's a brilliant work of fiction. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Check it out if you have not already. Highest recommendation I can give on this one is a 5-star. All right, the best sequel you've read so far. I have only read a few sequels this year. Honorable mention is Us Against You by Frederick Blackman from the Beartown trilogy. I still need to finish the third book in this, The Winners. I have it on audiobook, but I just have not dedicated the time to finish it. But yes, the Beartown trilogy is masterful. Barely beating it is the first of this author's work that I will be talking about in this tag, not the last. This is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This is the third and final of Mistborn Era 1. I really enjoyed Well of Ascension, but I just thought Hero of Ages was just a lot more engaging. I love when a trilogy can end on a really high note, and I think this one did. I think that there were a lot of really great character choices and plot choices. I think the reason I like this book a little better than Well of Ascension, even though I really enjoy that one, is it's maybe similar to why I rank Lord of the Rings. It's usually I say Fellowship, then Return, then Two Towers. I guess I just like third books more than second books sometimes. I think that the third book in a series can either make or break it, and I think that the fact that I still want to continue reading his books means that this was a very successful read. Everything you've heard about the Mistborn Era 1 series is true. Third question, what is the most disappointing book you've read so far this year? I have only read a couple books that I think maybe I only have like 1 or 2 books that I've actually rated like a 2-star or less. So that means just I didn't like it. The worst book of the year that I read was the Fine Print by Lauren Asher. It's just a kind of billionaire smutty romance. I don't know why I read it. I thought it was going to be similar to the Inheritance games, which my most disappointing sequel, or disappointing book of the year, I guess, was The Hawthorne Legacy. I thought it was okay. It's fine. It's more of a 5 out of 10 than a 4 out of 10, because I think that there's some interesting kind of fun nature to this series. I want to read the third book just to see how it ends, but like, yeah, this one, I guess it's disappointing just because with the fine print, I wasn't expecting anything. I thought it was going to be, well, I guess I thought it was going to be like the Inheritance games, but it was just smut, which there's nothing wrong with smut. You smut it up if you'd like. But for me, I just thought that this book was kind of boring and didn't make me immediately want to read the third book, which I think is never a good sign. What is the best book recommendation you've received this year? I haven't had anyone really tell me to read books, but the best book recommendation I guess I've received from like the internet, Mistborn, aka The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is my, I think, second favorite book of the year. I really, really loved this book. I mean, obviously, because I jumped into the Cosmere, as I will go on about a little later. I've jumped into the Cosmere because of this book. I think that this book just sets up such a rich universe, that this book is so rich in character, and it just builds this world so geniusly and with such like grace. It seems effortless the way he writes books, which I think is just a feat to behold. Specifically with Mistborn, I think it's obviously like everyone says the magic system is really what makes this book special, and that's part of it, is definitely this magic system. If you like that kind of story where, you know, you've got a bunch of people teaming up to do like a heist or something like that, this is that kind of book. The other books are kind of expansions on the universe, but this book is very much like, it could work on its own. It benefits from sequels, I think, but it could work on its own. And that's the kind of best kind of fantasy, is one that doesn't rely on a abundance of books, is one that goes, hey, I'm going to tell this really interesting story, and there's more to come, but I hope you enjoyed the ride while you had it. What was your first DNF of the year? I don't usually DNF books. I just push off books and maybe never read them. I have like a collection of books over there that I need to donate or sell or something like that. One of the books that I actually started but then was like, I gotta donate this because I'm not gonna read it, was Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This book kind of sucks. I enjoyed Shadow and Bone enough. I thought Siege and Storm was a slog that I did not like. And I have tried reading this book in particular probably 4 or 5 times, and I just can't get into it. I don't care. As it stands, Ruin and Rising and the Shadow and Bone trilogy is just not good. I don't like it. I don't think it's that well written. I think it's boring. I think that there's cool aspects to it. These books are just not amazing. And I'm glad that she's writing books that are getting really critically acclaimed, and I would love to read them. I'd love to read Ninth House and The Familiar, because I think there's definitely potential in here. A new release from this year that you've read, and your thoughts on it. So, I have not finished a 2024 release. I have read like half of one, and I want to finish it, so I'm going to talk about that. I don't read nonfiction. But this book in particular, I came across it on like a NetGalley thing or something surrounding the internet. I can't remember how this got brought up. I don't really read nonfiction, but this one just sounded so like, oh, this is like, sounds right up my alley. It's Sociopath by Dr. Patrick Gagney. Sociopath is kind of, as it says, it's a memoir, as the cover suggests. It's a memoir about this woman who grew up and she realized she was a sociopath. So of what I've read like half of it, and I think it's in, not only is it a really engaging and interesting topic for a book, I think that it is very well written. I think it's a debut. It's a debut book. Yeah, Sociopath. If you just want a little bit of kind of the description, I'll give you a little bit of the opening. So they call it a fascinating revelatory memoir recounting the author's struggle to come to terms with her own sociopathy and her drive to shed new light on the often maligned and misunderstood disorder. The first half, at least, has felt very fictitious in the sense of how it's in its way of written. It feels very contemporary fiction in how it's written and how it's structured. If you don't like nonfiction, I recommend this book because I don't like nonfiction and I like this book a lot and I would love to finish it. And that's my goal. One of my goals is to finish this book this year. A book that came out in the first half of the year that you want to read, and a book you're looking forward to from the second half. Okay, from the first half of the year, obviously I have a copy. Say Hello to My Little Friend. I was in the car with my grandpa, and he had NPR radio on, and they were interviewing this author, and she was talking about this book, and it sounded insane. And I'm gonna describe a little bit of it to you, and make a decision for yourself, because it's right up my alley, and I've heard it's really great. Failed Pitbull impersonator Ishmael Reyes, you can call him Izzy, might not be the Scarface type, but why should that keep him from trying to get the money and the power? Growing up in Miami after fleeing Cuba has shaped him into someone who dreams of being the king of the 305. And after finding himself at the mercy of a cease and desist letter from Pitbull's legal team and living in his aunt's garage turned efficiency, Izzy embarks on an absurd quest to turn himself into a modern-day Tony Montana. So I'm a fan of Scarface, and this is obviously a lot of references to that. I think that this book sounds hysterical and brilliant, and I'm very excited to read it, and I hope it's dark, and I hope it's crazy, and I hope it's hilarious. The next part of that question is a book that you are looking forward to from the second half of the year that is coming out. I am very much anticipating Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Yeah, I'm a big Sally Rooney fan. I think she's one of the most exciting contemporary writers. And yeah, I'm very excited to pick up her book day one. What genre have you read the most this year? I have read fantasy the most. Because I have read, as of right now, I have read 5 Brandon Sanderson books. He's a fantasy writer, and that gets into the next question. We're going through these pretty fast. Favorite new author, Brandon Sanderson is my favorite my brand new favorite author. He's not my favorite author, but he's a new favorite. It's Brandon Sanderson. He's the king of the modern fantasy book. He really is just this titan in the publishing world right now. Favorite book to film adaptation that you've watched this year? Since this is my first YouTube video, I am more of a film person than a book person, although I want to be half and half. I would love to read as much as I see. But yeah, so with this, I've seen probably a number of movies this year that have that were books, just because it's the nature of it. But the best one from this year, I'll say a 2024 release. 2024 release, that was the book. Was easily Dune Part 2. Yeah, Dune Part 2 is one of the best movies of the year. One of the best movies of the decade, I think. It's gorgeous to look at. It is insightful. It is a great, faithful adaptation to the book. But I think that the movie works as maybe the best possible outcome for a Dune theatrical film. Listen, Gabe. Last question. What books do you need to read before the end of the year? So right now, I am currently in the midst of a Brandon Sanderson kick right now. There are so many books that I own that I have not read, that I want to read. You could literally, I could literally just point to any of these, and it's probably something that I haven't read that I want to read. Let's see this one. It's Project Hail Mary. I want to read that. To prevent myself from getting into a slump, I need to be reading Brandon Sanderson because they're just so digestible and very comforting and interesting and engaging. They make you feel smart. They make me feel smart, and they make me feel fulfilled when I've read it. The books that I need to read, obviously, the Stormlight Archive. Yeah, these are chunky little books. but I'm about 100 pages into this one right now, and I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, so my goal is to finish the Cosmere, and then once that's done, I want to get to other smaller non-franchisey books. I want to read something like, I want to finish Sociopath. I would love to read Say Hello to My Little Friends. I want to read Intermezzo. I want to read any of these books that are up here, really. I want to read them, but I need to finish Brandon Sanderson, because if I don't, I feel like I will go into a slump. And I don't want to go into a slump. Let's see, my reading challenge. I'm checking my Goodreads reading challenge. I don't use Storygraph, even though everyone says to. I am 29% into my goal. I am 11 books behind schedule. I want to read 52 books this year. I have read 15. Let's set some goals for the rest of the year. My goals for the rest of this year are, I want to finish the Cosmere. Specifically, I don't want to read all his books. I want to just finish the Cosmere. I want to get to 52 books. I would love to. That'd be ideal. I want to read that much. I like that. I want to have fun reading. I want to enjoy what I read. I want to pick up some new books. I want to pick up maybe a classic or two. That's my goal for this year. That has been the mid-year book freakout tag. I don't know how many tags I'm going to do. I don't know what kind of videos I'm going to make. I'm just going to do this and see where it goes, because if it gets popular and I can make $1 off of this, that'd be cool. I like that. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching. If you watched the whole thing, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you have read books this year, let me know what your favorite books of the year have been, and maybe I'll pick it up. I don't know. You know, if you like it enough to comment, maybe I should check it out. So, read if you want. If you don't want to, don't read.